Right. Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Jill Stagel. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at Claremont Graduate University, and I'm so happy you're able to join us today for the conversation with Zina Brown and Jonah Elijah for their exhibition at the Dow Center for the Arts in Pomona, As Above, So Below. I personally know Zina and Jonah. I went through the Claremont Graduate University programs with them, and so this topic and conversation is very near and dear to my heart. So welcome, and we'll let everyone introduce themselves before we get started.
Okay, of course. I'm Zina Brown. My work, I guess, specializes in abstract cosmology, like we're going to talk about, and the Black experience within the U.S. So it's a good start off for me.
And my name is Jonah Elijah, and my work specializes in abstraction, representation, collage, and assemblage.
Hi everybody, my name is Momo. I am from the Progress Gallery of the Pomona Arts Colony. We have strong relationship with the Dow Center, and it's just my honor being here asking questions and representing the Progress Gallery. It's going to be a great collaboration.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so I'll start off with my first question, especially since we went to school together and we had a lot of classes together, is how do you feel going through a structured arts or fine arts program affected or had changed your artistic practice from when you started to when you graduated? And if either one of you can take on that question first.
So I would say with me, and I guess with a lot of artists, but it helps you sustain your practice. So you're going to have your classes, you're going to have your studio time, and you're going to have your idea, and you're going to be able to progress with your idea. So I like the stability of it, and it keeps your mind working in a stable way too. And you also have your people around you, like yourself. So I think it helps with your community a lot. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate how the community keeps growing through the people that we've met in that program.
I agree.
I agree with that as well. I think it definitely installed like a work ethic in me. I think the first week, David Amico, he gave me an assignment for the rest of my years there. He was like, start 5, finish 2. Start 5 paintings and finish 2 paintings.
I remember that.
And I think that kind of like stuck with me for like throughout, even after. So it definitely installed a work ethic for me to like work harder month to month.
Yeah, no, you can definitely see it in your guys' practice now how you keep doing work and your work keeps progressing from when you even started in the program. It definitely has evolved, but in such a great way too.
It helps you to produce too. A program, it really helps you to keep producing.
I agree for sure.
It definitely shaped like my thoughts of the art world. I don't think I didn't really go to like a really like art school. I didn't really have an art community before, so it definitely broadened my scope of like what an art school was.
Yeah,
Definitely see that.
I agree.
Yeah, so probably the grad school help you guys, to improve the artist statement, your topic, and your focuses a lot.
It really helped with that too. I guess the writing quality too, like writing about your work, talking about your work, and having that community that you can talk to helps you get better at talking about it and thinking about it at the same time.
Yeah, I really like what you wrote about up with your art on your website.
Thank you.
And this related to the first question I have on my list is how do you connect the cosmology with the African American experience?
Well, cosmology, I say the easiest way to explain it is about the universe. It's about the evolution of the universe from beginning to end. And that can be all of the planets, people, organisms in the solar system. So it's basically my work is asking how do Black people fit into the universe. And it starts on Earth, but when you think about it, I guess not when you think about it, but when you go deeper into it with yourself, you try to think beyond the Earth. So then that's when you go into things like UFOs, and then you relate them back to what your experience is, because you can't necessarily find your place here, so you go into the cosmos to see, I guess, about your creation, where you're made. So that's definitely how it relates.
I remember seeing and you talking about UFOs in an undergrad too.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily in UFOs the way that, like, the big population in general thinks of UFOs, and I think that was such a nice, different kind of way to think of what a UFO could be. It's not necessarily a spacecraft in space flying around.
And it's more of a metaphor. So it's both for the images that I use in photography and collage. So it'll be a metaphor for unidentified flying object, which in my case would be the stories that I take of lynchings from, I guess, previous times, but it still happens. But so it's me relating humans to unidentified objects, or the black people to unidentified objects, being unidentifiable. I'm a person that's like really into UFOs and stuff like that, so it's very easy for me to relate the two. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So let's move to the my first question to Jonah. How do you choose your medium for different works? Because I see that you used so many mixed mediums and different work, the wires, the cardboard, all that. How do you choose them for specific pieces?
That's a really good question. I think that's always a tough thing for me to do anyway. I always try to find a relationship between objects and just any found object I find, or any, like the carpet. I found that in the thrift store, and I was actually with Zina, and I was like, man, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna use that. And then, sometimes it sit in the corner for months, and then eventually it clicks to me. But when I saw the carpet, I was just like, man, it reminded me of my childhood. And so, those carpets were always used as a kid in classrooms. And it was just a way for me to like focus in on that community that's shown in the carpets. And I was able to actually provide my reality of those communities and put my experience in those communities.
Yeah, I know you also use the ready-made objects such as shoes,
The dominoes.
yeah, the dominoes.
Yeah, so that's
The cassette tape too. There's a cassette tape on that.
yes. I actually have a relationship with each piece. So like the dominoes, it's like that was a family game that's still played anytime we get together as a family. Somebody's playing dominoes. The shoes, I come from like the sneaker culture, so I really love the sneakers, Jordans, and I try to find a way to have a conversation with them and talk to people in the sneaker culture, or people that wear sneakers. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I really like how different the texture are and the contrast of paint and the ready-made objects in the same surface, in the same work. It just looks like they belong together, and how you put them together, but they looks like a complete whole piece. It's just
I mean, they call it assemblage, but before I got into art school, I would call it rigging. So that's just the art form or the art term of it, and it was always rigging to me. So once I got the academia side of it, I was like, oh, I've been doing this for years. Just even like fixing my own toys, or just putting stuff together.
Yeah, but you still need the eye to put them together.
That's true. That is true.
Okay, so speaking of the materials, I do have another questions in terms of the materials. Zina,
Yes.
how do you incorporate collage to your paintings?
Okay. So that goes back to the historical part of it. So I make the paintings, of course, but they're always, or not always, but the way I'm perceiving life, they're missing something, which is the past. So since I am specifically talking about narratives, the collage that I choose, which is usually old photos, it helps me work the past into it, and also helps me work the subject of like these images being available online, easy to print, me being able to put them in so easily, or a child being able to Google these images that they might not need to be looking at so young, but it helps bridge the past to the present. So like that's my main thing, especially when I collage Bible verses in there too. Like it's all I'll highlight the Bible verses like you do in church. It's all about bringing the past or experiences into the paintings. And that's probably my favorite thing, because it's more natural. I don't have to think about it. It's just like, okay, this piece of paper, it caught me, let me cut it out, put it in there.
Yeah, and I also saw that you was using the letters and the texts
Yeah.
incorporating that.
It's so important
Yeah.
because it's like a ritual. It's religion to say things, to call out, to read, to take note, and to highlight. Like all of those are things are part of church, and it's like the same as journaling. You know, when you get it down, the words are always powerful.
Yeah.
It's rare that people use words, I would say, in their paintings because it's kind of hard, but it's something that I really want to start doing because we all know that's why we're having a talk. Words are powerful. Yeah, so.
And they're very hard to use successfully in paintings. I feel like to where it makes sense, and I feel
Definitely.
like the way that you're incorporating them into it too, it's not always super obvious that it's there until you look closer,
Yeah.
and it really challenges the viewer, like it does with your work too, to get up close and not to just stand back away from what they're looking at.
Yeah, they're both intimate. I think that's something that both of the works have in, both of the bodies of work that have in common have an intimate feel.
Yep.
To them.
I agree.
We
Yeah.
definitely want people to get up close.
And
personally.
have an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, not letting the letters or the words taking away the
Yeah.
power of the painting. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
100%
hard to
correct.
balance.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, Jonah, well, when I was looking at your pieces, it just looks so cohesive, and just the repetition of the material using of different pieces. So I'm just wondering how, like during your process, are you doing multiple pieces at the same time? Are you starting multiple pieces at the same time?
I think that actually goes back to that statement I said when I got into grad school, like the start 5, finish 2. So I really I try to start 5, and I move around. Like sometimes I set up my phone and I have like a video set up and I fast forward it, and when I go back and watch it, I'm moving around like an ant, just moving from piece to piece really fast. So I like to that's like my process, because I don't like to get stuck on one thing. It bores me out, and especially if I'm struggling with the piece. So I'm like, if I'm doing like something representational, I'm like doing a face, I'm just struggling with it, I want to move away from it, and just put the relationship on pause and go to something else.
Yeah, when you're struggling with one piece, how do you consider that piece is finished?
That is a question.
That's the hardest question all the time, right?
That's the toughest. It's such a tough question, because I really never know. It's just a feeling. It kind of it's the light bulb.
You have to know when the relationship is over. You just gotta feel it.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. You just know when the relationship is over.
Yeah, don't try to
and
push
you're like,
it. You
We are
keep going.
good.
Yeah, you can't force it, because it'll go left.
Yeah.
It'll start digging its own hole.
Yeah.
And having multiple pieces going at a time sometimes can be good, because it gives them time to dry. So that way you don't overwork it, or things don't turn a muddy color if you don't want it to be a muddy color.
I'm a professional at making muddy colors.
Me too.
And then,
I already, when you first said that, I was like, yes, Jill. Like, your paintings, the layers are thick, but they always look beautiful.
Muddy and thick.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
definitely.
And in terms of the colors, when I was looking at Zina's painting, I just got so many informations, like so many more informations, and I was looking at the other painters' paintings. So I do curious about, are you consider yourself a, purely painter or experimental artist, or
Well, I used to feel like pressure to, like, what am I, abstract artist? Like, what do I call myself? I think that stresses a lot of artists, and it's so unnecessary. But I just, now, to make myself feel comfortable, I'm a creator of things. But I am an artist. I know I'm an artist. An artist is someone who makes things. So I do know I'm an artist, but I do want my stuff, I don't want it to have to be painting each time. I don't have to be a collage. Like, if I want to work in watercolor or charcoal, I want to be able to do that. So, like, or just put assemblage, find things and put it on a canvas. I want to be able to do that. So I like to, I'm at my calmest when I can just sit and make stuff. So, yes, an artist, but just a creative person.
I agree with that.
I would ask that question just because, when I'm looking at abstract expression with some paintings, I wouldn't ask question that that artist is just a painter. But when
Yeah.
I'm looking at your art, I
Mhm.
thought a lot about the installation, artworking, and not only painting
Yeah.
by itself.
I like installation as well too. So I'm like, I don't want to just do painting. I want to do it all. I just want to make stuff look like yes.
It's like you see something and you're just inspired by it,
Yeah.
so you want to try to use it like the carpet or
yes.
pennies or
Yeah, you are
Exactly,
100%
yeah.
correct. Yes.
It just clicks. It's just like a light bulb. When I see something, I get happy about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I gotta use it.
Yeah.
I gotta incorporate it some type of way.
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So I have a question for Jonah about one a element in your painting. It's the feet and the shoes. It just seems that the shoes or the feet has been repetitive a lot in your paintings. Is that a symbol or does that represent anything? Why is it important for you?
It's important for me because it might sound weird, but when I was in grad school, I was trying to figure this out. I was trying to figure out another perspective, and I was thinking about how we're us compared to like the moon or the sun, we're so much smaller, but us compared to like an ant, we're so much bigger. So I'm like, if the ant had eyes and they saw the way we saw things, that'll be the perspective of how they see that painting with the shoes. Like us, like it's like a perspective of someone way smaller, and you looking up at someone bigger. So the shoes is also a gateway for a conversation for me as well. I know sometimes in the Black community, it'll be hard to start a conversation with like another brother, but he might have on some cool shoes, and that might just be the conversation starter. So I know that about like sneakers, and that's just my way of creating this conversation.
Yeah, but not only the shoes, the feet too, the bare feet. I saw one of your painting. You have this huge feet in the center of the painting.
Yeah.
I mean, not feet, foot, because
Yeah.
there was just one
Yeah.
step of it.
Oh, I know.
that painting.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's actually the first piece I started collaging shoes on, and that was when I was really trying to figure out, because it's like you're looking at the bottom of the foot, so that's like that was my way of trying to experimenting, trying to see how it would look if like an ant was to look over, like we're stepping over an ant. So it's like we're underneath the foot, so we actually become ants.
That makes sense.
I know that sounds crazy.
Very
No, that's
it's
very-
metaphorical though.
That's
It's
what
just
it is.
sitting
It's a
like,
metaphor.
wow, okay.
It's about perspective.
That
It
makes
is.
a
It's
lot
like
of
about
sense.
perspective.
It's a great perspective to think about it, especially like with our own experiences, like when like our experiences to ourselves are big, like as if we're the bigger person, but when we think about the whole world and the experiences of other people around us, then that's when our experiences become the ants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of how mine goes, like the universe. Like I'm talking about us related to
Yeah.
the universe.
Wow,
So it's
okay.
about the
So
same
I
thing.
kind of zoom out sometimes, and I like try to picture like what we look like from an outer perspective. I've actually went skydiving, so when I was that experience kind of like stuck with me. So when I was up in the air, I was like, dang, everything is so small.
Yeah,
And then it gets bigger as you get closer to the ground.
yeah.
And then when you get on the ground, everything is still bigger. Like the clouds are huge, the mountains are huge, and then I don't know. It just from that experience, I always wanted to play with perspective.
No. Well, it's a different way to think of perspective too, right? Because a lot of times when you talk about perspective in the arts, it's more like, is it a 2D or 3D perspective? And I like that it's more of a metaphorical, deep perspective of how we're looking at things literally.
in
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
and perceiving life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have the last question for Zina. What do you think about abstract versus representational works? Why do you choose abstract to express yourself?
I would say because abstract to abstract, you have to have a beginning subject. So like this body of work focuses on Exodus. Without the story of Exodus, there will be no visual to feed off of. So, to abstract is to do that. So everything that I do, for the most part, as far as like paintings that I like in an exhibition space, I'm trying to tell a story. So they always start with somebody else's story. So without that person's story or that happening, then I don't have anything to work with. So I want to like pay homage to what I'm looking at, and I want it to be known, like, no, you need to know this story to understand my story. So like I told you earlier, I'm like, yeah, I'm an artist. So I feel like the abstract is me paying homage to what I take from or what's inspired, like what I'm inspired by. That's really important. Yeah.
And also, even when you bring some image, I mean, partially abstract image in
Yeah.
your painting, you try to use bold brush strokes to kind of abstract it a little bit.
To complement that, like if it's a bold image or something is hurtful in the image, of course, like say I'm going to use colors or strokes to accent that, and it's all based on that. Without that, then my stuff doesn't exist. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that is interesting. And the last question for Jonah is: have you done performance art? Or have you thought about doing that? It just because I've seen a lot of your body. I don't know if it's called body prints, but you kind of just print your body shape on top of the canvas.
I remember that
Yeah.
one too.
That one, yeah,
That was a good one.
it's very impressive.
That's when I started to use my body as like my paintbrush, if that makes sense. And I actually am a performance artist too. And a performance I do is I dip my hands in paint and I punch the punching bag. And the punching bag is actually I have a relationship with the punching bag because growing up in the house I grew up, I had a punching bag. I had a weight room right across from my room, and I had a punching bag in there, and that was like what I would do to go work out or relieve some stress. And then I brought it into my practice at CGU, and I was like, oh, this could be a series. So I started it. I was kind of frustrated what was going on in the world. I was frustrated at the time with just everything that I was going through, and I was like, I should just dip my hands in paint. So the first series of the punching bag series was called Black, Brown, and Red. And I felt like those colors I had a relationship with those colors because I felt like it's me. And it's also a relationship to different ethnicities. Black is my essence, brown is what you see, and then red is for the blood, or it could be any other thing too. But I use those colors to show black masculinity. That was my performance. I get to go out and work out and still be myself and transfer, stamp, just use my fist.
Yeah, I do remember that the punching bag, that work. So that performance art eventually turned into an installation or part of, I don't know if that was your solo show, part of your solo show.
I think that was it was actually from an installation class at CGU. And are you talking about the one that had the newspapers on the floor?
Yeah.
So that was the first punching bag series. I had the newspapers on the floor, and I also had had a TV with me actually making the punching bag. So the process, I had the punching bag there, which was in color, and then the video of me making the bag was in black and white.
It's like the leftovers of the performance, like what's left after the performance, or like the script in a way.
Right.
But instead of it being like telling you what to do, like a traditional performance artist like Yoko Ono or other folks have done in the past, where they'll have like a script of what the performance is and how you do it. It's just what's left, and you have to kind of put it together. And like the video you had, it's like, this is how you do it. It's like a how-to video, kind of.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, that is the powerful pieces that I've seen in that show.
And I have a question too, because we've talked about your materials and we've talked about why you use some of what you use and where it comes from, but we really haven't talked about the size of the work or the shapes, because sometimes you have circles for yours, and then like some of the work is larger or smaller. Does that have any significance to the piece as well? Or is it, because sometimes the size isn't necessarily reflective of what the meaning is in the piece, it's just the size that you prefer to use. Does that have any significance to what it is you're making at the time, or is it more so what you like to work on? Because I know some artists like bigger canvases.
For me, it is about the subject. Like I know I have one that mirrors the crucifix. And that it's important that the men are the size of actual humans. So for things like, or if I want to do something with the parting sea, which is I want to do in the future, I have one down there now. I want that to be huge because I want it to feel like the Red Sea is actually here. You know what I'm saying? So definitely size, and size is just as important as material. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think the circles, the different shapes pop in. Well, for the circle specifically, that was I didn't want to be basic with the circle.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of circles done. I go to a lot of shows and I see people just put portraits on it, and I saw it as a way for me to play with perspective.
Yep.
And I also was thinking like, oh, the circle is the eyeball too. It's like the pupil or the black part of the eye. And I was
a fisheye lens type thing.
The
Well,
fish,
it's- Yeah, like the one that you had up at the Felix Fair. I think it was called When the Lights Go Out, right? When it was the street light at the top and you have the soles of the shoes on the bottom.
Right.
But to me, when I saw the picture of that, I wasn't able to see it in person, unfortunately. But when I saw it, I was like, this circle makes perfect sense for that piece
It
too. I
does.
feel like if you had that on a square or rectangle
Yeah.
shape, it wouldn't have the impact that it has with the circle.
Right. 'Cause it's a way of seeing, and I think that circle is so. It just complements what we're looking at because we're used to looking at circles. I mean, life is a circle.
Yep.
Plot, everything works in a circle.
It's an organic. Circles are organic shapes too. So I mean, they always help you feel alive. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
And then the one in the show, that one you referenced, the Felix, that's from beneath. Well, it kind of goes with the title. So the one in the show is like from above, and then the one that was in Felix, that's from below. So
Yeah.
you're looking from beneath.
Well, that's amazing. No, and then titles, obviously, those are hard, but I feel like a lot of the titles that you both use really go with the work and provide the meaning of the work too, where if you read the artist statement, it definitely helps, or the show statement, it definitely helps give an idea to the whole show in general. But when you read the title to one of your pieces, you don't necessarily need to know the whole artist statement if you don't have it readily handy.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, but I feel like it really does go with the work, and it doesn't distract from the work either, which is important.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, definitely. I think titles are always hard sometimes, but I think sometimes when I'm thinking about titles, I'm always trying to like complement the black experience or put insiders in, not to exclude anybody, but just to always, say what's up to my people.
So I think that's important too. And, just having that cultural tie,
Yeah.
especially in both your works. At the beginning, when we first introduced ourselves, you talked about how your work and what you do as an artist is important to tying it back to your culture. And I think that
Definitely.
that's a good thing to reiterate too for the folks that missed the introductions, is that it's important to know, if you can't see it in the work, that it's important to have that tied to your culture and to amplify your culture.
Right.
I think it's a great way to give voice to it.
And speaking and call and response and wording is just so important in black culture. In the church, all of that call and response, wording, reading, journaling is just so important. So to have like titles that give you that kind of call and response, it adds to the work itself. Definitely, the title. We hope the titles always add to the work and not take away, like you said. It's very important.
Yeah, she hit it right on the head with that one.
No, she definitely did. Well, I do want to open it up to questions from the audience that are live with us here, or if there's any questions that are coming in through the live stream. If anyone has anything that they want to ask the artist, definitely let us know. You can raise your hand, or if there's a question that comes in through there, you can just let us know. And if there aren't any questions, it's fine.
Question.
Yeah.
I know you guys are recent graduates from CGU, so I was interested in knowing what's next for you. What are your plans moving forward from school?
I think mine is just to continue making work and it's
And also if you have anything lined up, like in terms of shows that
You just had some work at the Felix Fair, right?
Oh yeah, so I had the show at the Felix Fair last weekend. So I was in that that was my first fair to be in. So honestly, the goal once I graduated, I just got to keep producing work, and that was just I didn't want to fall off because I feel like if I fall off, I'm
So I think you started.
Yeah.
Once you take a break,
You lose that momentum that you have while you're in school. So if you keep producing, then it definitely helps keep the momentum, even if it's a slow trickle of shows coming out. When the shows come,
You need something to
they're
work
worth it.
towards.
Yeah.
You need something to work
Something to
towards.
work towards, especially.
right.
I said with myself, it's the same thing. Keep progressing, keep creating work, and also keep having shows and having your stuff show because that will create your community. So that's one of my main things. I also I want to create that community. I like to make stuff with people. So that's something like I want to really do is continue to find people that inspire me. And I think that's one of the reasons we go to programs like CGU to find that community of artists. So my goal is to keep creating, keep having shows, and build a community of people that inspire me.
Yeah.
And through that community too, you also can get those opportunities
Exactly.
to show too.
Yeah.
It's a really kind of like a domino.
Yeah,
effect.
that's exactly like
You know, no pun intended with the
No, that's
dominoes,
real.
but
Yes.
it's a domino
Yeah.
effect. It's like you meet people, you keep those ties with people,
Yeah.
and then when opportunities come up, and if you fit into that opportunity, a lot of times you might have someone reach out and say, hey, you know, I'm in the show, or I'm doing something, would you like to be a part of it? I think that happens a lot more often
Yeah.
than people really talk about.
Yeah, and you always, like you said, that's the effect of it. As long as you keep building your community of artists, you will always have opportunity. Like, because if you keep putting the love out, then people are going to give it back. Yeah,
That's true. It's definitely been working that way for me.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
No, it's a good question.
Great
Thank you.
question.
It's such a different transition having studio space and like sort of this pathway for
Yeah.
2 years, and then
Mhm.
that next phase is kind of interesting. Do you need time to just like take it all in and like process it, or do you just like keep going? So I was interested in
I
that.
think you have to do both. Like, you have to keep going and then register the fact that, okay, next step. But you have to, like we were talking about, so you'll have those time lapse, because it's so hard to, I guess not so hard, but it's like you have the mental stability in school, so you want to keep that. You want to keep that up so you won't lose it. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like it's okay for you to kind of mourn the idea of not having that studio space where you're all together with the same people,
Yeah,
but to also find a way to keep connected with
exactly.
your people.
And that's like, I guess that's adulting in the
Yes.
art world. Adulting in the art
Adulting.
world. Yeah.
I
It
agree.
definitely ended our, well, I know my semester ended weird.
Well,
because
mine and yours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mine
it
too.
was.
It ended right when COVID happened. So we were about to have our thesis shows, and that's when the ball just dropped. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was more just like, what do you do from here? But it was nice too because a lot of us kind of leaned on each other in some way. Like we had multiple group text chains, the email communications, but just trying to find a way for everyone to be safe and kind of checking in on each other, but then kind of trying to figure out like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We can't work in our studio right now. You have to try to find a way to work from home, and it's definitely an interesting kind of transition to be thrown out of grad school without having that
Literally.
ease of being
Yes.
out.
Yes.
thrown out of the studio.
Yeah. Definitely.
Exactly. Perfect.
I have a question.
Of course.
Jonah, earlier you were talking about how sometimes it's difficult to communicate with people in your community, and how you said like if they have cool shoes, that's like an easy talking point. It kind of made me start to think like, if you guys are interested at all in like, because I know it's easy to get support and kind of reach out to like the art community or fellow artists, but how do you guys kind of bridge that gap between like your work and everyday people?
That's such a good question.
That's a really good question.
I think that's like the point of art, and having it up in a space like this and being able to do these type of things, because we bridge or connect with each other through conversation. You don't connect with somebody unless you relate. So I do hope like at shows that people come talk to me and tell me what they thought. Even with social media, if you take my Instagram or anything, like just I want people to tell me what they think and critique me, and we can critique each other via conversation. Like that's how. I know it's like old school. More people do internet, but I'm always hoping for the in-person relation and connection, because for me that's why I'm making this stuff, so we can connect and you can possibly feel me. Same with the shoes. Like that's why it's such a good opener, because everybody loves shoes. It's a material, but everybody loves it. So and you can have a conversation about it either way. Even if he into shoes and I'm not, like, oh, I like your shoes. And then, like, I'm not, not too knowledgeable on it, but maybe you can educate me. Conversation. So that's what I hope, how I hope to build and bridge everybody.
I think she hit it on the money with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, just doing shows too, just doing pop-ups. I think that's a good way to bridge that gap. And the internet is the perfect place for bridging that gap as well too, because you get to post something, and then people get to come out and see what exactly you're doing, and you know, find out more about the work and see how they connect with it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We still have time for a few more questions if anybody has them. If not, totally okay. No pressure. While anyone is thinking of any, this is the last day of the show. It's the closing reception for As Above, So Below. And we definitely want to thank the Dawes Center of the Arts for allowing us to host this conversation, for the artists and for Momo for joining. Very
Thank you.
fortunate for everyone for tuning in and coming, because in a time of chaos, it's always a great thing to amplify artists' voices, and especially Black artists' voices, so that they can tell their stories, especially not just through their artwork, but through spoken word too. So,
It's true.
are there any other questions? Well, again, thank you so much for joining. We will have the reception. You will be here till 7. So if you have questions for Jonah and Zina, please feel free to come up and ask them. Thank them for being here and for their artwork.
Yes.
And thank you so much, Margaret.